I'm Matt from Wraith, and you're watching Channa 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 podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. We have a very special guest today joining all the way from Indiana. We got Matt of Wraith. Hi, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, pretty good, man. I can't complain.
Matt, how's the situation where you are with the pandemic and everything?
I would say it's getting better. It's similar to how it was in this probably late summer, early fall. Numbers have been going down, but obviously we're still kind of in the thick of it. I think we're not quite out of the woods yet.
Right. So, how you been? What you've been doing with the pandemic and with the lockdowns, and was it that bad where you are? Was there a lot of lockdowns and stuff?
Yeah, so I live like probably 25 minutes south of Chicago, and that being such a major city, it was pretty bad around here. I think Illinois was a little bit worse, and Chicago was really bad. So we got lucky that it didn't trickle over too bad. But I mean, we were definitely it was pretty bad here for a little while. We've been working on the record, so we've been plenty busy. We obviously took some time off during the really, really bad part. That was when I actually wrote and recorded Index Case during the very, very beginning of the pandemic. So that kept me busy for the first, little while there. And then we took a break for probably a month or two until we felt like it was okay to start to get back together. And the first few times was outside with masks on, just kind of talking through what we wanted the next record to be. And we had already written some stuff, so we were seeing where those songs would fit and if we could use some stuff, and then just took it from there. As restrictions eased up, we all kind of got a little more comfortable getting back together and practicing. So that's been mostly just race stuff, honestly, during the pandemic. So I can't complain too much.
Right. So when was your last live performance?
A year ago, we played Black Circle Brewing in Indianapolis, February of 2020. That was the last show we played.
Right. So Matt, I got to know you actually from this album, this split you did with Bastardizer.
Oh,
because Bastardizer
cool.
is also one of my favorite bands. So
oh man, yeah, awesome.
So I was talking to Chris, and this came out in 2020, right? Actually, during pandemic, it was released, right?
Yep, it came out just after Index Case did. So we put out a lot of music during the pandemic. We had written those songs, I think, probably just before it started, though. So we knew we were doing that split, and we kind of had them ready to go.
How did this happen with Bastardizer? How do you got connected with Bastardizer?
I mean, I feel like we've been kind of chatting with them since kind of as long as we've been a band. We play very similar, styles of music, and I think there's just a certain camaraderie amongst a lot of us. So a lot of us just kind of communicate with each other. How's it going? Like the new record? You guys doing anything? Type stuff. And I want to say Chris probably asked about the split because that came out on his record label. So I think one day it was just probably brought up in casual conversation, and they were interested in doing it, which was awesome. So, we kind of snatched up the opportunity and got together with them.
Right. So Matt, before we talk about your music, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and what's your earliest memory of music?
Yeah, so I think my earliest memory of music is a very vivid one. My dad is like a total rock and roll guy, not so much metal. I think ended up taking it a little bit further, but I mean, he's the guy that introduced me to all of the, early heavy bands. But my first memory was when I was probably 7 or 8. I mean, there was always music being played, but the first time I remember really being captured by some type of music was we had some people moving something into the house for us, and I was a little kid. I was running all over the place. I was getting in the way. My dad kind of picked me up, and he used to, our entertainment center, back then was huge. It was a big wooden entertainment center. It had a TV on it, and he had a turntable. He had a 2-deck cassette player with mixers. He had drawers and drawers of cassette tapes and vinyl records, and he kind of picked me up and sat me down in front of the record player, and there was big can headphones that sat on a hook, and he just dropped the needle on whatever was on the record player and put the headphones on, and it was Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath. So I just
Oh,
remember
wow.
being kind of drawn in by like the rain and the thunder sound, and then you hear the bell kind of toll and the heavy guitar starts. And from that moment, as soon as it was over, I was like, Dad, what was that? Like, you got any more stuff like that? And it was Deep Purple and a lot of the 70s kind of original heavy bands. And then that brought me into more of the metal stuff.
Right. So what was your like earliest like favorite music?
It's always been rock and roll. Yeah, always been some form of rock and roll. Probably earliest was like the Beatles. That was some of the first stuff I heard. So I think probably started with the Beatles and then turned into Black Sabbath, which turned into Metallica, and so on and so on and so on.
Right, right. So so how did you get into like performing? How did you get into bands? What were your like first bands?
Yeah, so I I always was asking my parents if I could do something. You know, when you're younger, you always have a new thing you want to try. So it was baseball, that didn't last very long. It was soccer, that didn't last very long. Football, that didn't last very long. After like 15 of those, I one day I wanted to play guitar. So I walked to my parents and I said, "Hey, can I play guitar?" And they said, "No, you can't. You know, you got all this other stuff that's sitting around that you never really use, and we don't have the money to buy something that you're not going to end up sticking with." So I kind of pestered him about it for a few weeks, and finally my dad, he's like a real kind of smooth talker, and he went to this local music shop and said, "Hey, my kid wants to play guitar, but I don't trust he's going to stick with it. If I pay for like a month's worth of lessons, can he just borrow a guitar from the shop, like whatever you got that's available? Like it doesn't have to be anything super expensive, but can you just let him play a guitar?" So he told me if I completed the 4 lessons and I stuck with it, he would buy me my own guitar. So I went there, borrowed the guitar, took the month worth of lessons, came home from school one day, and it was a BC Rich Warlock, and like a little Fender Frontman amp was sitting on the couch for me, and I quit guitar lessons once I got the guitar. But I held up my end of the deal. But yeah, that was what started it. So I played by myself, for I can't remember. I mean, I think I started playing guitar when I was like 11 or 12. So I probably played by myself for 3 or 4 years until I found or convinced really more my buddies to pick up other instruments. And then we started a band. We covered like 2 Misfits songs and 2 Metallica songs, and that was like our first like middle school band. We've just played those 4 songs at practice at my buddy's house all the time.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started.
I also saw that you played bass also for a band.
Yeah. Well, I played bass in a couple bands. I played bass in a band called SKOG. It was me and a couple other local musicians. It was kind of more of a punk band. It was really fun. We played one show. We had like 4 or 5 original songs, and we covered a Jimi Hendrix song. And then I played bass in a band called Headlock, which I also play guitar in. Play guitar in it first, and then we went to a 3-piece, and I picked up the bass, and the other guy continued to play guitar. So I played bass off and on, for just about as long as I played guitar. Really, I think I ended up getting a bass a couple years after.
Right. Matt, can you tell me about forming the band Wraith? How the idea came for Wraith, and how did it happen?
Yeah, so we were in Headlock for me. Well, Mike was in Headlock, first of all. Our drummer was in Headlock with me as well. So we've been playing music together for like the better part of a decade. And Headlock broke up, and Mike moved to Florida just to kind of try something new, get away for a little while. He's just kind of fed up with the Chicago area. So he took off for a little bit, and I was just really discouraged because I couldn't get for the life of me anybody to play music with me. And that's the one thing I really like to do. So I would bother people all the time. You want to start a band? If you have a band, can I join your band? I'll do whatever it takes type thing. I'll play bass. If you need me to play bass, I'll play guitar. I was having honestly no luck. So I had an apartment in the same city I live in now. And I wrote World War was the first Wraith song ever. So I wrote World War, and I demoed it in my apartment by myself. Thought it sounded really cool. And I had never been the vocalist of a band before. So I wrote some lyrics really quickly. That's why they're pretty remedial. I just tried to jot down something that I thought would be fitting for a song that sounded that way. And I went into our closet at the time with the microphone and screamed it into our jackets or whatever. And I just got kind of a rough demo for the first song. And I listened to it for days, and I just kept thinking, man, this would be so cool if I could just come up with a couple more songs. I could probably get somebody to be in a band with me now, because I got, you know, I have material. So now you don't have to do any work. You know, I got these songs already. I'll teach them to you and we can start practicing. So I can't remember the other songs I wrote to follow, but I mean, I think it was like maybe the song Wraith and one other one I wrote right around the same time. Did the same thing. I had a little Focusrite interface for my laptop, and I had a cheap version of Pro Tools, or the free version of Pro Tools, and I just recorded everything by myself. And I was telling Mike about it because I would still talk to him all the time. He's one of my best friends, so we would chat on the phone or whatever, and we'd text each other back and forth. And I sent him the songs. I'm like, dude, I'm making this music, and I think it's really cool. And we've always had we've aligned in almost all of our musical tastes. We typically see things the same way. So he was like, yeah, man, those are really cool songs. Like, if I happen to come back, or I'm going to come visit, like I would love to, maybe we could write some more songs or re-record them. So that kind of gave me some hope. I was like, well, cool. You know, if Mike is plans on coming to visit his parents or whatever, or if he for some reason moves back, you know, I'll have somebody that can at least play drums, and I could do the guitars and bass and vocals. Like that shouldn't be a problem. So by some weird series of events, Mike called me one day and said, hey man, I hate Florida. I'm moving back to Chicago. You know, can you help me unload the U-Haul? Like a few weeks later. And as soon as he got back, I was like, well, let's do this thing, you know, because I recorded those songs with the guy that does our records already. So I did the first Wraith record was really done in 2 pieces. I did 4 songs, and then me and Mike got together. We wrote the other 4, and then we recorded the second set of 4 songs and put it out as one record. But right. Yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then our other friend played bass for us for that record. And he was, you know, he had other hobbies, I guess. There's no hard feelings. We still hang out with him all the time, but he wasn't as into it as we were, I think. And he kind of liked some other types of music, and he was viewing it more as just like something fun to do with his friends. And it got kind of serious. We started playing some shows, and people started to like it, and we were kind of committing to it a little bit more. And I think he just wasn't prepared for that. But we were playing with the Verukers in Chicago, which was a big deal for us because we were all like punk kids when we were growing up. So he kind of let us know short notice, and I didn't know what to do. And I've been friends with Chris probably longer than I've been friends with Mike. He was like my metalhead friend in high school. And I called him one day and I was like, hey man, I hate to put you on the spot, but can you learn, you know, 7 or 8 of these songs and fill in for bass for us? Cause you know, we got this show with a pretty big band and we don't really know what we're going to do. And right. He was like, dude, I don't know if I can play in front of people, you know, I'm super nervous, but he's like, I'll try, you know, I'll learn them and we'll see how it goes. And he's never left the band. He's just played that show, and he's been with us for the last however many years.
Right. So you guys, when did you settle for the name Wraith?
I thought it up. I was watching Lord of the Rings, and I always thought the imagery of like the ring race was super cool.
Right.
And I think I just was literally watching it one day, and I was like, yeah, I'm making those songs. I'll call it Wraith. That's kind of cool. Like a Reaper. Just, I guess it's a little more original than just calling it Reaper.
Right. Matt, I really like that you guys, you know, sort of your motto that is like no bullshit, speed and thrash. So it's like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea. It's at least what we practice what we preach.
Right. So you put out your full length album. When is that? Heed the Warning. That's 2018, right?
Yeah. So I think the first one came out the very beginning of 2017. And then about a year later, we did Heed the Warning.
Yeah. You have a song called System Overload. I think, I mean, right now, looking at the world, how everything is happening, I think it's like a system overload, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe I predicted the future. I mean, I hope I didn't, because then if that's the case, there's a lot of other bad stuff that's coming our way.
Yeah, actually, when I'm looking at you, like, you know, system overload, then absolute power, extinction. So these are kind of like
yeah,
becoming reality.
There's a trend, I think. Yeah, there's a trend.
Can you tell me about the song System Overload?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess what specifically, like the lyrics, where the lyrics came from?
Yeah.
So I have a degree in history, and I minored in political science. So I've kind of always been pretty interested in, I always call it the power struggle, or, you know, different countries and how, you know, the systems work. And I got the inspiration from the Thin Lizzy song Emerald. I was listening to Emerald one day in the garage or whatever, just drinking beers or sitting around. And there's a line where he says to overthrow the overlords. And I always loved the way that like rolled off the tongue. So it was one of those things where I just made a mental note. I thought overlord, I'll probably try to throw that in somewhere. And I was probably in like some fiery discussion about politics one day. And I was like, yeah, man, at the end of the day, there's just the overlords, like they just kind of manage the system. And I was like, oh, system overlord, that's pretty fucking cool. Like I gotta try to see if I could use that somewhere. And then I just put pen to paper and like tried to jot out a whole story there.
Right. When you said that you minored in political science, I you remember this with Tom Morello, like people are saying, you should just stick to music, don't talk about politics, but he's actually a political science, know.
Yeah, from Harvard. Yeah, it's kind of tough, It's hard to tell that guy that he doesn't have an opinion, because he's obviously, he was playing a lot of guitar, but he was paying attention to something.
Right. Matt, what do you think about all this, all this sort of tragic situation with social media? Everybody's, it's like, it's so divided. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. I think I 100% want I think everybody should have their opinion. I really do. Like, I'm not for quieting anybody. I think people should be able to make as much noise as they want. But I think the divisiveness that it's causing is really disappointing. There's no longer like a feeling of camaraderie amongst citizens, and nothing is really that civil anymore. It's all very much, which side of this do you want to stand on? And that's disappointing, and it's disappointing when you hear people that you used to have respect for, whether that's famous people or people that you thought were close to you, kind of spout some of the stuff that you just fundamentally I can't get behind. So I think it's brought a lot of those people out of the woodwork, and that's a little disappointing. But I mean, my hope is that it leads to something else, right? It's like controlled burns for farming. You torch the whole thing, and then you end up getting, a pretty healthy crop comes behind it. So maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is just a state of flux, and we'll be in a much better position in a few years. But it's ugly right now. That's for sure. It's a mess.
Yeah. What I mean, the dialogue is should be there, and it's fine that people are actually, saying their opinion, pointing out different opinions and all this. But the problem is there's no compromise, because I think the way society can grow is that all these different opinions becomes and come up with some sort of a compromise where that they can move forward, right? So it's not always the case.
I mean, there's no solution. Yeah. It's just very much, this is what I want, and I don't care if it's not what you want, because it's what I want. And then you say, well, what I want is this. And the person says, no, I don't care. I told you what I want. So it's just been a lot of that. But I mean, hopefully, like I said, hopefully something better comes out of it.
Basically, it's just empowering the status quo, right? Because nothing is really changing.
Sure. Yeah. It's just bringing out really ugly people. It's just kind of making things known, right? You can't be secret about it anymore. I feel like people now, they got a microphone in front of them so they can spew their ugly thoughts, as opposed to keeping it to themselves.
Right. So Matt, your release Absolute Power, which is absolutely great. I mean, great album. You had like, I really love all the songs of that album. It's really great.
Thank you.
Can you tell me about that album, how that got conceptualized? And some of the songs I like is like Devil's Hour, Acid Mars. Those are really great songs also.
Sure. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. So I think we are very mindful of the fact that like when something hits, we always want to try to be better, but all of us also are aware that people like certain things, like certain elements about Wraith. So we always really try to protect the things that we think people like about it while we continue to grow as a band. Because ultimately, we wouldn't want to put out Heed the Warning 3 times. Like, Heed the Warning was Heed the Warning. Absolute Power is Absolute Power. Index Case is Index Case, and so on. So I think while we were writing Absolute Power, we were very mindful of the fact that there was some things we didn't like about the songs on Heed the Warning and some things we really liked. So we were really trying to kind of focus in and honestly find our sound. Chris was relatively new to the band. The band wasn't that new to begin with, maybe 2 years, just about a year and a half. So a lot of that is just kind of trying to develop what it is that we want to sound like as Wraith. You know, we're like constantly compared to other bands, but at the end of the day, there are things that I think that we do that are unique to us. So I think Absolute Power was great because we really found what those things were. I feel, at least, you know, we really kind of settled in and wrote songs that we were really proud of and we felt very comfortable coming up with. Yeah, I think as we were doing it, we felt like it was going to be good. But as like a creative person or an artist, there's always a bunch of like, well, I hope they like this. You know, we like this a lot. So, you know, when we put it out, if it falls on its face, we're just going to have to, you know, we're going to have to live and die by the sword, I guess. But luckily it was received very well, and it seems like people still are trying to purchase it. And, you know, we get lots of compliments on it. So we're really thankful that people appreciate it as much as we do.
Right. So one of the other bands that when I listen to you, I sort of get reminded of, or I once I return to Wraith, I want to listen to that band also, like, you know, Power Trip.
Yeah, of course. We love Power Trip. Yeah, love Power Trip. That's like, I would say not so much songwriting, because I think they do some stuff that we potentially haven't. Well, with the new record, there might be a little more of it, but you know, that we've always appreciated their music. But for me, it's production and intensity. Like, if I could have a fraction of their, you know, what it feels like you're getting punched in the head when you listen to a Power Trip record, and I love that.
Yeah.
So we try to do a lot more of that with this new record, which I think is going to be really cool production wise. We spent a lot of time messing with tones and making sure the drums sounded huge, and that, you know, everything, when you put the headphones on to listen to this, I mean, we hope that you get the same feel as you get when you listen to like a Nightmare Logic, because that record is really kind of next level for me in terms of sound. I think sonically, that, I mean, musically too, but
Yeah.
production wise, that record sounds like it's a wall of noise, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, actually, Power Trip is one of the last concerts I watched in 2020, just before the pandemic. They were here in Manila, and I've never seen like a mosh pit where, you know, you had the metalheads, the punks, the hardcore kids, and everybody was there. It was,
yeah. I mean, right? How cool is that? What a unifying band, you know? Like, same thing. I saw them. They played at the Metro in Chicago in like November of last year, and I went out there by myself because nobody wanted to go. So I literally went there, drove to the city, saw the show, and same thing. People were coming from behind the curtain to stage dive. They were running from behind the amps just to stage dive while Power Trip played, and that's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's so sad that Riley actually passed away during the quarantine, right?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of hit all of us pretty hard, you know, like we didn't know them personally, but I feel like being a metal band in a very similar situation, you know, like it was tough to see that he, you know, he just doesn't seem like he's touchable, right? It's Riley from Power Trip. That's not somebody who's supposed to pass away at 30 or whatever, 35. Yeah. Like, he's supposed to live to make 10 more Power Trip records. And then it just shows how fragile life is, you know, it just gone too soon.
Yeah. So you guys recorded Index Case in 2020. So this is was this during quarantine? This was recorded?
Yeah, so I actually recorded it all by myself. At the time, we weren't practicing or playing, and I have like enough to be dangerous in terms of recording ability. I can't make a whole record, but I can get tracks together. And the guy that's been his name is CJ. He's done all of our stuff so far, and he's a friend of ours, and he's really cool. So I just texted him one day. I sent him a demo for Extinction, maybe. And I said, hey, I have 4 of these songs, and they're all kind of quarantine themed, because it's been a way for me to channel, you know, my negative energy during this kind of shitty time. So I said, if I can send you these track by track, can you produce it for me? And he was like, yeah, man, he does live sound is his job, like regular job. And he's like, yeah, like I don't have anything on the books for the foreseeable future. So if you want to toss me a couple bucks, I'll put it together for you. So it happened really quick. I mean, I think I did the songs, and a week or 2 later, he had sent me the first mix, and then I made a couple adjustments. He sent it back. I showed the guys. I said, hey, you know, this is kind of what I got. If you want me to release it as, you know, something else, we can. If you don't feel like it would be a Wraith thing, or if you're comfortable and you like the songs, you know, let's just put it out as a Wraith release. And they were all for it. So we got to kind of push through and released within like a couple of weeks. It was really cool how quick it happened, but it was a lot of fun, man. It was a really great way for me to stay busy for, the first few weeks while it was pretty scary.
Yeah, and you had a very good reaction to Extinction also, right? I see that it was streamed a lot as well.
Yeah, it's currently like our most popular song, which is really cool. I love it, man. It's 2 minutes. It's got, for me, all the elements a song should have. It's got, fast parts, cool lyrics, a good break, a half-ass guitar solo. Like to me, it's the total package. So I think it's cool people like it so much.
Yeah. So Matt, I know that you guys are working on a new album that's supposed to be released. So can you tell me about the new album? When do you plan to put it out?
Yeah, so it's done. It's called Undo the Chains. I don't know if you saw the post with the artwork. We've been trying to push that and get it out there so people can see it. Yeah. Man, I mean, I think I've never been more proud of a batch of songs in my life. I think everybody in the band feels the same way. We knew we had big shoes to fill for Absolute Power, and I really feel like this is going to do that. It's relentless, really. It's going to be really cool. I think because of the pandemic, a lot of production stuff has been delayed in terms of like production for vinyl and CDs and stuff like that. So our plan is to have it out by the summer. We don't have an exact date or timeline necessarily, but working really closely with the label because really it's going to be contingent upon how quickly they can get it into the press and get us some test presses back so we can approve them, get the records, all squared away, and then we can get it out. But hopefully more information soon. I think we'll have a better timeline as the weather starts to break.
Right. So you with all the pandemic and what do you see for the future? When do you think that Wraith will be able to go on the tour again?
Man, we had a sold out show with Violence that we were supposed to play last year. And it got pushed back to October, I think. And then it got pushed again to March. And now it's pushed to November of next year. So that was supposed to be our first show back, but I just think we're not in a spot to, be able to pack 500, 600 people in a room yet. Right. We're scheduled to play Full Terror Assault this summer with Exodus. So that currently is when we will be hitting the stage again. I mean, that'll be a year and a half since we've played a live show. Right. So I'll be so fired up to get back in front of people and play these songs. So hopefully that's when we can start. We haven't booked anything else just because it's too uncertain. We don't really know. Yeah. We get lots of people that reach out and ask us to come play their, cities or states or countries. And we want to get to all of them. It's just a matter of safety currently. I think we're going in the right direction. I think all the numbers show we're going in the right direction. So hopefully more of this vaccine circulates and people kind of can get back into the swing of things. We'll be back on the road. But I think if you want to see us, the only show we got booked is Full Terror Assault in September. We hope a ton of people show up to that. It's outside, it's an open air festival, so it should be relatively controlled, but hopefully there's no more spikes and we can actually, get back in front of people. Right.
I mean, I would love to see you guys, in the future, if you guys able to tour again, you should definitely consider coming to Southeast Asia.
Yeah, hey, we're not opposed to any of it. We always say just get us in contact with somebody. If somebody could just put us in touch with somebody, we'll try to figure it out. Honestly, we this is what we love doing. We love playing heavy metal music. So we'll do it in front of anybody, anywhere. That's the way we view it. Whoever wants to see it.
Yeah, because Bastardizer was already here. It came to Philippines in 2018.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I think I saw Bastardizer already 3 or 4 times. So
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to make up for that. We'll make up for lost time once we can get back out there.
So Matt, what's your message to the viewers and also people who listen to Wraith?
I say it all the time, but just my biggest message is thank you so much for the support. Honestly, we wouldn't be able to keep making music if people weren't consuming it. For us, it's not about money or it's not about status or, hitting a certain number with record sales. As long as we can continue to make enough to sustain making more, we're going to keep doing it. And we just appreciate all the support, man. Even with the COVID thing and people not being able to go out and play shows to make money, just tremendous amounts of support on the Bandcamp Fridays, and people still reaching out, us, putting out merch and having it sell out in a day or two, like all that. I just can't even put into words how much that means to us as musicians, because it's really kind of gratifying knowing that people do appreciate what you're doing. And even we get messages all the time talking about how certain music gets people through certain times, and certain songs mean a lot to people. So, that is kind of our fuel. I can't thank everybody enough, really. I think the metal community is the coolest community out there. People from all different walks of life and different situations are all kind of in it for the same reason. And we're just really happy to be a part of that.
Yeah. I feel that, I feel that metal community is the one that actually kind of still united, right?
Well, yeah, I think we're just so used to it. I think a lot of people are learning what it's like to be shit on. And we, like metal, you've been getting shit on for a long time, probably.
Right. Matt, anybody you want to shout out to?
Just the fans, man. Keep feeding us the fuel we need to keep going. And the other guys were kind of talked about this interview beforehand, and they kind of had the same message when they had a chance to shout it out. Just I probably don't have the time to name the people specifically, but everybody who will probably watch this interview or continue to support us and support you and other podcasts and other kind of media platforms that can get music and get content out there regarding metal music. I think just need more of it. We're almost through the pandemic where shows can happen again, so let's keep pushing through it.
Right. So Matt, I really enjoy talking to you, and really love your music. That's why I reach out to you guys. I wanted to talk to you and have you on the show. So thank you for joining, and keep making great music. I hope you guys can start touring again, and wish you all the best. Just tell everyone how they can follow Wraith and how they can get your music.
Sure. Yeah. Bandcamp is probably the easiest way if you're looking to get merch. I believe it's wraith219.bandcamp.com. Our Facebook page, we're pretty active on social media. Our Instagram is usually really funny. It's at Wraith Thrash. So if you ever want to laugh, usually we're either doing something goofy or we're talking about something goofy. If you ever want to reach out, we do really try to respond to all the messages we get. So you want to send us a message on Facebook or send us a message on Instagram, we'll try to do our best to reach out to you. But yeah, those are pretty much our main platforms if you want to get in contact with us.
Right, Matt. So thank you for joining again, and have a great evening. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too, man. I really appreciate the time. Thank you. Yes, sir. See ya.
See you.